Well, Kamala lost, and she didn't just lose, she got destroyed. She lost both the popular vote, and of course she lost the presidency. She lost through electoral college miserably. Lots of states where Biden was doing particularly well in, she did significantly worse. States where Trump had a lead in the previous election, he got a much greater lead. I told you so typically feels good when you actually like the results, or when the results don't negatively impact you. When you're also suffering, it don't hit the same. But this is an I told you so moment. I never was a big fan of Kamala, and it's disgusting. Despite the fact that I wasn't a big Kamala fan, I was still willing to bite the bullet and at least advocate for voting against Trump, despite the fact that I knew that she was such a miserable candidate. And just like Hillary, we're in the same situation where Democrats keep saying better than Trump is good enough, not giving you an actual president that you want. Better than Trump is good enough. There's problems that come with the way that they did Kamala, in the sense that typically the primary is a vetting process in which you kind of weed out a person from all of their other peers to endear people to that person. So for example, when you're in a primary and you see Kamala Harris and you see her versus all of her opponents, if you actually resonate with her and you actually support her, then what ends up happening is you now have a sense of endearment and now a sense of defense for that person, because you now see that person as a valiant victor over all of these other opponents. So you've already developed an attachment to that person, and that's one of the purposes of a primary. She didn't have that. She just got kind of shooed in there in a very non-democratic process and just became the person. So in this situation, now we have this person who was already very, very much not liked, according to numbers, one of the most disliked vice presidents in the history of vice presidents, running with Biden. And so then that person who had an absolutely abysmal presidential bid gets destroyed by Trump. And now we're going to be looking back and trying to figure out who to blame. I'm hoping that the narrative isn't going to continue to be black men and their misogyny, because as I see the numbers, exit polls for Black people shows a 1% difference. 1%. What we're seeing is there's a pretty great difference when it comes to Latino Americans and Asian Americans, and even Indian Americans supported her less than they did Biden. This woman was unlikable. Some of y'all drank the Kool-Aid, and you're going to sit there and lie to yourself because of the cognitive dissonance, and you're going to say, no, I actually liked her. I think her policies were fine. You didn't like her. You just didn't like Trump. Now, you don't have to admit that. America's obviously demonstrated that. There wasn't strong motivation. The amount of people who voted for her were significantly lower than Joe Biden. Trump actually underperformed slightly, but still performed better than Kamala. This is absurd. And we should have known better. I kind of did know better, because I kind of told y'all from the beginning she was awful. But I still said Trump earned my vote against him, but Kamala didn't earn my vote. Apparently, a lot of people had that sentiment. We have to do better. Now, when I say we, they got to do better, because I'm not a Democrat, and it's one of those situations where Trump is so atrocious and so scary that it's like, man, I wanted anybody to win but him. But in reality, this is the wake-up call. Democrats better actually get an agenda. They better actually find a way of relating to us, but they're not going to, because even though her policies and her plans were terrible, we still voted for her. Black people have been unmoved and unchanged and still continue to support the party that still continues to dismiss us and degrade us with benign neglect. I'm going to be following this abomination of a Trump presidency, because I promise you, this is going to be some of the worst 4 years that any of us could possibly expect. I'm anxious to see his first mistakes, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to actually keep track of all of it. There are a sect of online idiots that actually support Donald Trump. Those people can't be contended with. You guys saw my conversation with Tariq Nasheed. It's not real. These people aren't serious actually about outcomes. They're just grifting for numbers. Not only did she lose, but then you have in states like California where they voted to keep slavery in the state of California as punishment for a crime and forced servitude. Prison is supposed to be about rehabilitation, but instead you have forced servitude, and the rehabilitation programs coincide with the forced servitude so that these people can't choose to be part of the rehabilitation program because they have to work for 74 cents an hour. This is a progressive state? This is like the Democratic emblem? I'll do a whole video on the prison reform nonsense later. The fact of the matter is, we got to buckle up, because this is going to be an atrocious 4 years. You're going to see. I talked about the racism of the Republican Party, and we know the Democrats aren't that much better, but it's going to get atrocious. It's going to be atrocious, and you're going to see for yourself what Republicans want for black people. Watch when Project 2025 gets implemented and recoded as Agenda 47. So much overlap, it's absurd. Again, I told you so don't really hit right, but I did tell y'all so.